The morning air in Seoul carried a crisp, refreshing breeze as Tian Xiwei stepped out of her hotel lobby, pulling her beige trench coat a little tighter around herself. She adjusted her camera strap, her eyes sparkling with uncontainable excitement as she prepared for a day full of exploration. Just a few feet away, Zhang was already waiting by a sleek rented car, checking his phone while sipping a warm cup of traditional Korean tea. Their trip to South Korea had been planned for weeks, a much-needed escape from their hectic shooting schedules and the constant glare of the public eye. As Xiwei approached, Ling looked up, flashing a bright, reassuring smile that immediately melted away any lingering travel fatigue. They decided to start their adventure in the heart of Bukchon Hanok village, where narrow alleys lined with centuries-old traditional houses offered a quiet contrast to the bustling metropolis. Walking side by side, they paused frequently to admire the intricate architecture, the curved tile roofs gleaming softly under the morning sun. Xiwei couldn't resist pulling out her phone to take candid photos of Ling against the rustic wooden doors, laughing heartily when he struck a dramatic, exaggerated pose in response. The atmosphere around them was peaceful, filled only with the faint sound of crunching gravel under their shoes and the distant chatter of local residents. It felt surreal to be completely away from the cameras of television crews, just two ordinary friends experiencing a deeply rich culture together. Moving deeper into the village, they stumbled upon a tiny, hidden artisan tea house tucked away behind a blooming cherry blossom tree. Drawn in by the soothing aroma of roasted barley and herbal infusions, they stepped inside and chose a traditional low wooden table by a paper screen window. The elderly owner welcomed them warmly, seemingly unaware of who they were, which only added to the liberating sense of normalcy they both desperately craved. They spent nearly an hour tasting various local pastries, with Ling playfully insisting that Xiwei try a sweet red bean rice cake that he claimed was the best thing he had ever eaten. Between sips of steaming tea, they shared quiet conversations about their upcoming artistic projects, finding immense comfort in each other's unwavering understanding. By afternoon, the vibrant energy of Myeongdong beckoned them with its neon lights, lively street music, and rows of bustling food stalls. Plunging into the crowd, Xiwei instantly transformed into an enthusiastic explorer, her eyes darting from one delicious street food vendor to another. Ling acted as a protective shield, gently guiding her through the thickest parts of the crowd so they wouldn't get separated in the sea of shoppers. They sampled crispy hodok dripping with brown sugar syrup, spicy tteokbokki that made them both gasp for water, and cheesy corn dogs dusted with savory sugar. With messy fingers and happy stomachs, they giggled like children, completely unbothered by the messy eating or the vibrant chaos surrounding them. As twilight began to paint the Seoul skyline in shades of deep orange and violet, they made their way toward the iconic Seoul Tower. Instead of taking the cable car, they opted for a romantic evening walk up the winding Namsan Mountain Trail, surrounded by lush greenery that whispered in the evening wind. The gentle climb left them slightly out of breath, but the physical exertion was easily forgotten the moment they reached the summit. Stretching out before them was a breathtaking panoramic view of the entire city, millions of artificial lights blinking into existence like fallen stars. They stood side by side at the railing, watching the endless stream of traffic flow below. Like ribbons of fire against the gathering dark, thousands of colorful padlocks hung from the surrounding fences, left by couples wishing for eternal love and unforgettable memories. Ling chuckled softly, pointing out a particularly rusty lock that had clearly been there for over a decade, wondering aloud what story those two strangers had left behind. Xiwei leaned against the cool metal railing, resting her chin in her hands as she absorbed the magnificent scenery with a soft, contemplative sigh. She turned to look at Ling, whose face was illuminated by the ambient glow of the nearby observation deck, casting a gentle shadow across his features. Without needing to say a word, they both understood how special this exact moment was, a quiet pause frozen in time amidst their fast-paced lives. The following morning greeted them with a gentle, misty rain that transformed Seoul into a cinematic masterpiece of soft grays and vibrant umbrellas. Determined not to let the weather slow them down, they rented matching oversized yellow raincoats and headed straight for the historic Gyeongbokgung Palace. Walking through the Grand Gwanghwamun Gate, they felt as though they had stepped backward in time into a historical drama. The rain tapped rhythmically against the glossy black tile roofs of the throne hall, creating a tranquil symphony that echoed across the vast stone courtyards. Despite the damp chill in the air, the bright yellow of their coats added a cheerful splash of color to the otherwise monochromatic landscape. They decided to rent traditional hanboks for the day, stepping into vibrant layers of silk and organza that flowed gracefully with every movement. Xiwei chose a pale pink jeogori paired with a rich crimson skirt embroidered with delicate silver plum blossoms, looking every bit like a royal princess. Linghe donned a deep navy norige robe that accentuated his tall frame, complete with a traditional scholarly hat that he adjusted with mock seriousness. As they walked beneath the covered wooden corridors of the palace, holding matching oiled paper umbrellas, passers-by whispered and smiled at how perfectly suited they looked together. They spent hours posing playfully against the ancient red pillars, capturing cinematic shots that looked like they belonged on the poster of a blockbuster romance. When the rain finally cleared by late afternoon, leaving behind fresh puddles that reflected the brilliant blue sky, they ventured toward the artsy district of Insadong. The neighborhood was a maze of antique shops, calligraphy studios, and quaint galleries showcasing contemporary Korean art. Xiwei dragged Linghe into a tiny, cluttered handmade pottery workshop where an elderly master craftsman was shaping wet clay on a spinning wheel. Intrigued, they both rolled up their sleeves and sat down at separate wheels, eager to try their hand at the ancient craft under the master's watchful eye. Linghe's first attempt at forming a ceramic bowl resulted in a hilariously lopsided lump that caused Xiwei to burst into uncontrollable laughter. Determined to redeem himself, Linghe focused intently, his long fingers gently guiding the spinning clay into a surprisingly elegant, tall vase with smooth contours. Xiwei, on the other hand, successfully created a charming little teacup adorned with a clumsy, hand-carved smiley face near the base. The craftsmen praised their enthusiasm, promising to fire and glaze their creations so they could be shipped back to them as permanent souvenirs of their trip. Leaving the workshop with dusty hands and proud grins, they stopped by a traditional street vendor to buy freshly roasted chestnuts wrapped in simple brown paper bags. As evening approached, they took a leisurely stroll along the revitalized Cheonggycheon stream, which flowed peacefully several meters below street level. The urban oasis was illuminated by soft, artistic light installations that cast shimmering reflections across the clear water. Couples sat closely along the stone banks, dangling their feet near the edge while listening to the soothing sound of babbling water echoing beneath the towering skyscrapers. Xiwei and Linghe found a quiet spot near a small stone bridge, sitting down side by side with their shoulders touching gently in the cool night air. They shared roasted sweet potatoes bought from a nearby vendor, letting the comforting warmth of the snack ward off the evening chill. The conversation drifted effortlessly from light-hearted jokes to deeper reflections on their careers, the pressures of fame, and the unexpected beauty of finding true companionship. Linghe spoke about the loneliness that often accompanied long months spent on isolated film sets, where genuine personal connections were a rare and precious luxury. Xiwei nodded empathetically, sharing her own quiet struggles with the relentless public scrutiny and the difficulty of finding someone who truly understood her world. In that tranquil underground sanctuary, surrounded by the quiet hum of Seoul overhead, they found a profound sense of emotional safety in each other's presence. It was a rare, unguarded moment where all the noise of the entertainment industry faded completely into the background. By the third day of their vacation, they decided to escape the urban sprawl entirely and take a high-speed train down to the coastal city of Busan. The train ride itself was a scenic delight, offering uninterrupted views of rolling green hills, peaceful rural villages, and distant mountain ranges blanketed in morning mist. Leaning her head against the window, Xiwei dozed off lightly, her breathing falling into a peaceful rhythm as the train rattled smoothly along the tracks. Linghe quietly draped his jacket over her shoulders to keep her warm from the air conditioning, using the spare time to review the photos they had taken so far. As the coastal scenery outside shifted from inland forests to sparkling ocean vistas, Xiwei stirred awake with a bright, refreshed smile. Arriving in Busan, they were immediately greeted by the salty scent of the ocean and the sharp, invigorating breeze rolling off the Hyundai coastline. They checked into a minimalist seaside hotel featuring a floor-to-ceiling glass wall that overlooked the endless expanse of the blue sea. Without even unpacking their luggage properly, they rushed down to the sandy shore, kicking off their shoes to let the cool ocean water wash over their bare feet. The afternoon sun cast a golden shimmer across the crashing waves, creating a breathtaking backdrop that made them feel instantly alive and liberated. They walked hand in hand along the shoreline, letting the rushing tide playfully chase their steps before retreating back into the ocean. Hungry from the journey, they made their way directly to the sprawling Jigalchi fish market, the largest seafood market in the entire country. The sensory experience was overwhelming in the best possible way, with tanks of colorful fish, giant crabs, and squirming octopus lining the bustling aisles. Local vendors called out cheerfully, inviting visitors to pick their fresh catch and have it prepared immediately at the second-floor dining area. Ling bravely pointed at a lively, medium-sized king crab, while Xiwei watched with a mixture of fascination and playful nervousness as the vendor scooped it up. Moments later, they were seated at a bright window table overlooking the busy harbor, savoring a magnificent feast of steaming seafood cooked to perfection. After a satisfying meal, they took a scenic cable car ride across Songdo Bay, suspended high above the glittering water in a transparent glass-bottom cabin. Looking straight down through the floor panels, Xiwei gasped softly, clutching Linghe's arm in a playful mix of excitement and mild vertigo. He laughed reassuringly, wrapping a steady arm around her shoulders to help her steady her nerves as the cabin glided smoothly toward the destination. The view from above was nothing short of majestic, capturing the rugged cliffs, the distant lighthouses, and the tiny fishing boats dotting the horizon like toys. As the sun began its slow descent into the western sea, the entire coastline was bathed in a breathtaking palette of pink and gold. They spent the evening wandering through the colorful, terraced alleys of the Gamchean culture village, often referred to as the Machu Picchu of Busan. The hillside community was famous for its vibrant pastel-painted houses, whimsical murals, and imaginative art installations hidden around every unexpected corner. Walking through the narrow, winding staircases felt like exploring a real-life fairy tale, with whimsical sculptures peering down from rooftops and brightly colored painted fish guiding the way. They paused frequently to take whimsical photos next to the famous Little Prince statue, posing side by side while looking out over the magnificent city below. The artistic energy of the neighborhood inspired a deep sense of creative joy in both of them. Returning to Seoul for the final leg of their journey, they dedicated their last full day to a peaceful escape at Nami Island. Located just outside the city, the famous island was renowned for its picturesque tree-lined paths and tranquil natural landscapes that changed character with every season. Renting a tandem bicycle, they pedaled merrily along the iconic Metasequoia Lane, where towering trees formed a magnificent natural archway overhead. Xiwei took charge of the steering while Ling provided the leg power, leading to bursts of laughter whenever they wobbled dangerously close to the grassy edge. The crisp autumn leaves crunched softly beneath their tires, filling the crisp morning air with the nostalgic, earthy scent of falling foliage. They parked their bicycle near the tranquil riverbank and sat down on a wooden bench to feed the friendly local squirrels that darted playfully through the grass. Ling held out a small handful of nuts, coaxing a particularly brave little squirrel to approach and take the food right from his palm. Xiwei recorded the entire adorable interaction on her phone, giggling uncontrollably at Linghe's exaggerated expressions of mock triumph when the animal successfully took the snack. Afterward, they strolled hand in hand along the wooden boardwalks that bordered the freezing river, watching the gentle ripples catch the afternoon light. It was a remarkably quiet, ordinary afternoon that felt infinitely more valuable than any grand red carpet event or award ceremony. As evening descended, they returned to downtown Seoul for a quiet, intimate farewell dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Han River. The city lights twinkled below like a sprawling galaxy, reflecting off the dark water in long, shimmering streaks of neon color. They ordered a traditional Korean barbecue spread, with sizzling cuts of premium beef grilling slowly over hot charcoal at the center of their table. Ling expertly flipped the meat, making sure the pieces were cooked to absolute perfection before placing them gently on Xiwei's plate with a caring smile. They raised their glasses of sparkling plum wine in a quiet toast, celebrating not just their successful vacation, but the enduring strength of their friendship. Over dinner, they reminisced about their favorite moments from the past few days, from the rainy palace walks to the chaotic seafood markets in Busan. Xiwei expressed her deep gratitude for the trip, admitting that she had not felt this genuinely relaxed and happy in years. Ling echoed her sentiments, noting that exploring the country with her had given him a fresh perspective and a much-needed emotional reset. They talked about how fast the time had gone by, wishing they could freeze the clock and stay in that exact bubble of peace just a little longer. Yet, despite the impending return to their demanding schedules, there was no sadness in the air, only a profound sense of shared fulfillment. The next morning, their alarm clocks rang early, signaling the end of their unforgettable Korean holiday and the time to pack their bags. Their suitcases were significantly heavier now, stuffed not just with clothing, but with handmade pottery, souvenirs, instant Polaroids, and countless irreplaceable memories. As their taxi sped through the quiet morning streets toward Incheon International Airport, they stared out the windows at the waking city. The familiar silhouette of Seoul Tower faded into the distance as they approached the highway, marking the closing chapter of their adventure. Both of them remained quiet for a while, lost in their own thoughts as the reality of returning to the public eye slowly set in. At the airport terminal, they checked in smoothly and made their way toward the departure gate through the efficient security checkpoints. Before boarding their respective flights, which happened to depart around the same time, they grabbed a final cup of hot coffee at the terminal lounge. Sitting across from each other at a small round table, they shared one last hearty laugh over a blurry photograph they had accidentally taken in Myeongdong. Linghe adjusted his cap, looking at Xiwei with a warm, supportive expression that conveyed more reassurance than any spoken words ever could. It was clear that this trip had cemented an unbreakable bond between them, weathering the trials of their busy lives with grace and mutual respect. When their boarding call was finally announced over the airport loudspeakers, they stood up together and gathered their carry-on luggage. Walking side by side down the carpeted corridor toward the jet bridge, they exchanged a warm, lingering hug that embodied all the unspoken gratitude of the journey. As they parted ways to enter their respective aircraft cabins, both turned back for one final wave, sharing bright smiles that promised future adventures. The flight doors closed, sealing away the wonderful private moments they had shared away from the spotlight, preserving them as a sacred secret. Back home, fans would soon catch wind of subtle hints, but for now, the peaceful harmony of soul remained safely locked in their hearts. Hours later, as the airplane touched down on the tarmac under the familiar city lights, the whirlwind of public life rushed back instantly. Flashbulbs would soon flare, interview questions would rain down, and new scripts would demand their complete and undivided attention. Yet, as Tian Xiwei walked through the arrival hall with her camera bag slung securely over her shoulder, she felt an inner calm she hadn't known before. Zhang, exiting through a neighboring gate just moments later, felt that same quiet strength settling deep within his spirit. Their South Korean getaway had ended, but the beautiful memories they co-authored would continue to inspire them through every challenge ahead. Fans across the globe would soon